Professor Harrison Vance didn't look like a predator. He looked like a success story. He was the head of the marketing department, a published author, and a man who walked with the effortless confidence of someone who had never been told no. I was a junior in his digital strategy and consumer behavior seminar. I've always been quiet, the type of student who sits in the second row, takes meticulous notes, and maintains a 3.9 GPA. I have a side business managing social media growth for local startups, but I don't broadcast it. I prefer to let my results speak for themselves. Vance noticed me 3 weeks into the semester. It started with mentorship. He'd ask me to stay after class to discuss my potential. He'd stand a little too close, his hand lingering on the back of my chair. "Julianne," he'd say, his voice dropping to a confidential hum, "you have a certain aesthetic. A natural brand. With the right guidance, my guidance, you could be more than just a strategist. You could be the face of something." I recognized the pattern immediately. It's a basic marketing tactic, the false scarcity hook. He was trying to make his attention feel like a limited-time offer I couldn't afford to miss. I tried to keep it professional. I'd steer the conversation back to SEO or conversion rates. But he wasn't interested in my mind. He saw a naive, pretty plaything, his words eventually that he could mold and exploit. The turning point came during a mandatory career counseling session in his office. He told me he'd secured a prestigious internship for me, but the paperwork required a weekend retreat to his private cabin to build the strategy. When I politely declined, citing my existing clients, his face shifted. The charm didn't vanish, it sharpened. "Julianne, don't be difficult," he said, leaning over his mahogany desk. "A girl like you, you're lucky I'm even looking at you. Without my recommendation, you're just another girl with a smartphone. You should be grateful I'm willing to invest in you." I realized then that he wasn't just a creep, he was a gatekeeper who believed he owned the gate. I looked at the framed photo of his wife and 2 daughters on his desk. He followed my gaze and didn't even flinch. That's when I understood no one was coming to save me. In this building, he was a god. To the dean, he was a rainmaker. To me, he was a project. And I decided right then to give him exactly what he thought he wanted. For the next 4 months, I played the role of the over-tolerant student. I didn't report him. I didn't cry. I didn't even tell my friends. I leaned into the autonomy and truth axes of my plan. If you wanted to believe I was a vapid, easily manipulated girl, I would provide the perfect canvas for that delusion. I started humoring him. I'd laugh at his jokes. I'd ask for his expert opinion on my Instagram captions. Every time he sent a suggestive text, I'd reply with a confusingly upbeat emoji. I was building a digital paper trail of a man who was growing increasingly bold because he felt increasingly safe. I used my real skills, the ones he dismissed, to set the stage. I didn't just record him, I optimized the environment. I knew his schedule. I knew his habits. I knew he liked to use the departmental lounge late on Tuesday nights when the janitors were on the other side of the building. I spent those months documenting everything. The metadata, every late-night check-in call. The patterns, how he awarded top marks to girls who laughed at his jokes and CS to those who didn't. The ego. I consulted him on a new private social media project I was working on, getting him to help me set up a private streaming link for brand testing. He thought he was teaching me. In reality, he was configuring the very tools of his own exposure. He became reckless. He started demeaning my intelligence to my face, calling me his little gold mine, and telling me I was too pretty to worry about things like logic. By the end of the semester, he felt untouchable. He invited me to the lounge after the final exam, promising to hand-deliver my A and my internship contract. He told me to come, dressed for a celebration. The lounge was dim. Vance was leaning against the sofa, a bottle of expensive scotch already open. He didn't see the tiny high-definition camera I'd positioned inside my marketing portfolio binder on the table. "You look compliant, Julianne," he said, his eyes scanning me. "It's a good look for you." I sat down, keeping my voice steady. "I brought the contract, Professor." But I have a question. What about your wife? Doesn't she wonder where you are at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday? He laughed, a dry, dismissive sound. My wife is a domestic creature, Julianne. She understands that a man of my stature has requirements. Besides, he leaned in, his voice dripping with condescension, do you really think a woman like her compares to a girl like you? You're a toy. You're fun to look at, but let's be honest, you're not exactly a deep thinker. Just sign the paper and be grateful I'm choosing to spend my time with a vapid little thing like you. He reached out to stroke my hair. I didn't flinch. I just looked directly into the lens of the private brand testing stream that was currently being viewed by his wife, the dean of students, and the university's legal counsel, all via the link he had helped me test earlier that week. I think I've heard enough, I said quietly. I stood up and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The fallout wasn't a loud explosion, it was a structural collapse. The dean had seen the entire exchange. The demeaning comments, the coercion, the admission of his wife's awareness. Because I had spent months documenting the pattern of his grading bias, the university couldn't just dismiss it as a one-time lapse in judgment. It was a liability. By the next morning, his access to the campus servers was revoked. By the end of the week, his wife had filed for divorce, using the high-definition footage of him calling her a domestic creature as leverage in a state where infidelity and emotional abuse impact alimony. He tried to call me once. He sounded small. He tried to tell me I'd ruined his life. I didn't ruin anything, I told him calmly. I just recorded what you chose to do with it. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. I graduated 6 months later with honors. I never checked his social media again. That was how I knew it worked.